5 smart responses that will silence anyone. Have you ever wanted to deliver a line so sharp, so precise, that it stops the other person cold, without yelling, without insults, just sheer composure? Picture it. You're in the middle of an argument. Voices are raised, tension is climbing. Then, with one calm sentence, you flip the entire dynamic. Their tone drops, their face shifts, and suddenly, they've got nothing left to say. That's exactly what we're diving into today. 5 responses so powerful that they can silence anyone, from a boss trying to dominate you, to a family member who always crosses boundaries, to that person who simply won't stop pushing their will on you. These aren't cheap comebacks. They're not meant to humiliate. They're designed to protect your peace, hold your ground, and command respect without ever losing your cool. And trust me, response number 3 has the power to completely disarm even the most manipulative people. So stay with me until the end, because once you learn these, you'll want to practice them immediately. The real problem with arguments. We've all been there. You're saying something reasonable, logical, maybe even necessary, but the other person, they're not listening. Instead, they're talking louder, cutting you off, or twisting your words. And in that moment, you feel your chest tighten, your patience thin, and that temptation rising. Should I shout back? Should I fight fire with fire? In our culture, power is often confused with volume. People mistake shouting for authority, disrespect for dominance, and fear for respect. But let's be clear, that isn't real power. That's temporary domination. Real power is something deeper. It's the ability to speak so clearly, so calmly, that people can't help but stop and listen. That's the field we're playing on today. The field of composure and mental strength.
I don't need to raise my voice to be right. Let's start with one of the most elegant responses you'll ever use. There are moments when someone starts raising their voice, thinking the louder they get, the more authority they have. They shout, they interrupt, they dominate the space. And naturally, you feel the pull to match their energy. But here's the truth. If you take that bait, you've already lost. That's when this line comes in. I don't need to raise my voice to be right. Picture it. You're in a heated meeting at work. Someone keeps cutting you off, trying to drown you out. You stay calm, steady your breathing, and when the moment lands, you say it. The entire room shifts. Suddenly, the focus isn't on their noise. It's on your composure. This isn't just about winning an argument. It's about changing the game. You're making it clear. You don't fight with emotional fire. You fight with clarity. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "He who cannot control his tongue will be a slave to his emotions." And that's exactly what you're demonstrating. You're not enslaved to volume, to anger, to chaos. You're proving that true authority comes from control, not from noise. The beauty of this line is that it does more than silence the other person. It also earns the attention of everyone else around you. Because in a storm of raised voices, the calmest voice is the one that carries the most weight.
The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. Now let's talk about handling contempt, mockery, or sarcasm. We've all been hit with it. The sly comment, the smirk, the passive-aggressive remark meant to get under your skin. The instinct? Fire back, give them a taste of their own medicine. But here's where most people lose their power. By playing their game, you validate their tactics. Instead, you say, "The way you speak says more about you than it does about me." This line is like holding up a mirror. You're not attacking, you're not defending, you're simply reflecting. Imagine someone tries to belittle you in front of others. Instead of snapping back, you look at them calmly and deliver that line. The sting isn't in your tone, it's in the realization
They just had to face themselves. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." This response embodies that. You don't lower yourself. You don't scramble for validation. You simply stand in your dignity, and in doing so, you force them to sit with their own disrespect. And here's the deeper lesson. When you don't react the way people expect, you break the script. You change the dynamic completely. Suddenly, the one throwing jabs looks childish, and you look unshakable. Remember this. Most people think respect is about being feared. But in reality, respect is commanded by how you carry yourself, especially under pressure.
Let's talk when we can do it respectfully. Now, we're stepping into one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal. Some conversations aren't conversations at all. They're just verbal sparring matches. The other person interrupts, raises their voice, and refuses to hear you out. That's when you pause, breathe, and calmly say, "Let's talk when we can do it respectfully." Notice the difference. You're not storming out. You're not surrendering. You're raising the standard. You're saying, "I don't play this game." Picture this. You're in an argument with someone who just won't stop cutting you off. You try to get a word in, and they bulldoze right over you. Instead of matching their chaos, you reset the frame with that phrase. The Stoic teacher Epictetus put it best. You cannot control what others do, but you can control what you accept. And that's exactly what you're showing here. You're making it crystal clear. Respect is the price of admission for a conversation with you. What happens next? Often silence. Because when someone realizes they can't drag you into a disrespectful brawl, they have two options. Step up to your level or walk away. Either way, you win.
And here's where things get even more interesting. Because sometimes the most powerful move isn't to reset the conversation. It's to end it entirely. In the next section, I'll show you a phrase that closes the door with so much calm authority that it leaves people stunned.
I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. There are times when no amount of logic, calm, or respect can save the exchange. The other person isn't listening. They don't want to understand. They're just looking to win, even if it means wounding you in the process. That's when this phrase becomes your shield. I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. It's short, it's clear, and it's powerful. Notice what it doesn't do. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't justify itself. It simply sets a boundary. Imagine this. You're speaking with someone who seems to take pleasure in provoking you. Every sentence is laced with contempt. You feel your patience wearing thin. Normally, this is when you'd snap, but instead, you center yourself, look them in the eye, and say, "I'd prefer not to continue this conversation." The effect is immediate. It slices through the drama like a blade through fog. The toxic pattern is cut off at the root. You're no longer dancing to their rhythm. You're setting your own. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed." That's exactly what this phrase represents. You're choosing peace over battle. You're choosing your dignity over the last word. Some will mistake this for weakness, but let's be clear. This isn't retreat, it's elevation. It's the quiet strength of someone who understands that protecting their energy is far more valuable than winning a shouting match. It's the same principle as closing a door.
Sometimes the strongest move you can make is walking away with calm authority.
That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it. Not every difficult exchange comes from enemies or manipulators. Often, it's with people you care about, family members, close friends, colleagues, who push their views on you. They may not mean harm, but they still overstep. That's where this phrase fits perfectly. That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it. It's disarming because it doesn't confront. You're not dismissing them. You're not fighting. You're simply drawing a line. I hear you. I respect you. But I stand on my own judgment. Picture a family dinner. Your relative insists on telling you what career path you should take or how you should raise your kids. Instead of debating point by point or quietly stewing in silence, you calmly say, "That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it." What follows is powerful. They're forced to accept that you have your own stance. There's no room for attack because you didn't insult them. You just reaffirmed yourself. Seneca once said, "To be a slave to the opinion of others is the worst of all prisons." And this phrase is the key to breaking out. It's a way of saying, "I'm free. I think for myself. I don't need your approval to validate my choices." Use this consistently, and something shifts. People begin to realize they can't pressure you into compliance. And paradoxically, that's when true respect often begins to grow.
The bigger picture. So let's zoom out. What do these 5 responses have in common? 1. I don't need to raise my voice to be right. 2. The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. 3. Let's talk when we can do it respectfully. 4. I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. And 5. That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it. Notice that none of them rely on anger, insults, or aggression. They aren't about crushing the other person. They're about raising yourself above the chaos. The Stoics taught that we don't control the actions of others, we only control our response. That's the thread running through all 5 phrases. Each one puts you back in the driver's seat, regardless of how reckless the other person is being. And here's the kicker. When people realize they can't manipulate you, provoke you, or force you into their script, they eventually fall silent. Not because you defeated them in battle, but because you refused to play the game in the first place. Why this works in today's world. We live in a culture of quick reactions. Social media rewards the fastest comeback, the sharpest clapback, the loudest opinion. But here's the paradox. The louder everyone gets, the more powerful silence becomes. When you use these responses with calm precision, you stand out. You become memorable. You command attention without demanding it. And in any environment, whether it's the workplace, your home, or even online, that's what real influence looks like. Think of Marcus Aurelius ruling an empire. Surrounded by politics, betrayal, and constant pressure, he still held his composure. Not because he was passive, but because he understood that the person who controls themselves controls the situation.
The modern advantage. Here's what most people get wrong. They think respect is something you chase, but Stoicism flips that upside down. Respect is not something you beg for, it's something you inspire. Every time you use these phrases, you're sending a message. I'm not easily shaken.
I don't surrender my dignity. I don't need noise to prove my point. And when you live that way consistently, you gain a reputation that speaks louder than any outburst ever could. People begin to pause before they cross your line. They tread more carefully around you, not out of fear, but out of respect. Now, we've covered the 5 responses in depth, but here's the real secret. Knowing them isn't enough. You need to practice them, test them, and integrate them until they become second nature. Because the day will come when you're caught off guard, at work, at home, maybe even with a stranger. And in that moment, the person who wins is the one who has already trained themselves to respond with clarity instead of chaos. In the final section, I'll recap these responses, show you how to practice them daily, and share how using them will transform not just your conversations, but the way people see you altogether.
Pulling it all together. We've walked through 5 powerful responses, tools you can keep in your back pocket for when the heat rises. Let's bring them together one more time. 1. I don't need to raise my voice to be right. 2. The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. 3. Let's talk when we can do it respectfully. 4. I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. 5. That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it. Each one is simple, each one is calm, and each one flips the script of an argument. Now think about the last time you felt cornered by someone's words, when you wanted to fight back but knew it would only make things worse. How different would that moment have felt if you had one of these phrases ready to go? That's the power of preparation. Because in the middle of an argument, your emotions sprint ahead. But when you've rehearsed responses like these, you can step back, breathe, and let composure lead the way.
Why these phrases stick? Let's go deeper into why these lines silence people. First, they shift focus. Instead of getting dragged into noise, you redirect the spotlight onto what truly matters: respect, self-control, clarity. Second, they disrupt expectations. Most people expect escalation. They expect you to meet fire with fire. When you don't, when you respond with calm authority, you throw them off balance. Third, they reveal strength. Not the kind of strength that comes from domination, but the kind that comes from discipline. Epictetus put it bluntly, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that's what these lines show. You are the master of you.
Practice makes power. Here's something most people miss. You can't wait until the argument starts to practice composure. You've got to rehearse it. Try this drill. Step 1. Pick one of the 5 responses. Say it out loud, not in your head, out loud. Notice how it feels in your mouth. Step 2. Repeat it slowly, then calmly, then firmly. Each time, picture yourself in the heat of an argument. Step 3. Practice eye contact in the mirror while saying it. Train your body language to match your words, steady, not defensive. Do this enough times, and when the real moment comes, you won't freeze or fumble. The phrase will flow out naturally, like muscle memory.
The ripple effect. Here's the part that may surprise you. These 5 responses don't just silence arguments, they shift how people see you long term. When you start using them consistently, something happens. People test you less because they know you won't bite. People listen more because your calmness commands attention. And most importantly, you feel lighter because you're no longer drained by constant emotional tug-of-war. Think about it. Every time you protect your calm, you're training others how to treat you. You're showing them that respect isn't optional, it's the baseline.
Respect isn't taken, it's inspired. There's a common trap.
believing that respect comes from force, that if you're louder, sharper, harsher, you'll be respected. But that's not respect. That's fear. And fear is always temporary. True respect is different. It's not imposed. It's inspired. It's born when people see you refuse to be shaken, when they realize you're anchored, steady, and immune to cheap tactics. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire surrounded by chaos, understood this better than anyone. He didn't cling to power with volume. He led with composure. His journal Meditations wasn't about commanding others. It was about commanding himself. That's the model. Respect isn't about bending others. It's about mastering yourself. Your next move. So here's my challenge to you. Choose one of these 5 phrases and use it this week. Don't wait for the perfect scenario. When the tension rises, at work, at home, even online, pause, breathe, and try it. And then watch what happens. Watch the silence. Watch the shift in body language. Watch the way people recalibrate around you. Because once you experience that, you'll know these aren't just phrases. They're tools. They're armor. They're proof that the calmest person in the room is always the most powerful. Final recap. Let's lock them in one last time. I don't need to raise my voice to be right. Breaks the power of volume. The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. Reflects disrespect back to the source. Let's talk when we can do it respectfully. Raises the standard of the conversation. I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. Ends toxicity on your terms. That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it. Protects your independence without conflict. Use them. Repeat them. Own them. Because the moment you do, you stop being someone who reacts. You become someone who leads. Closing words. Respect isn't earned through shouting. It isn't demanded through fear. It's inspired through presence, composure, and control. These 5 responses are more than clever comebacks. They're Stoic tools, designed to remind you that you can't control others, but you can always control yourself. And when you master that, you don't just win arguments. You win respect, peace, and the kind of power that lasts long after the conversation ends. Call to action. Here at Stoic Spring, I share tools, lessons, and strategies to help you think, speak, and act with the wisdom of the great philosophers, so you can live with more respect, more inner peace, and more strength in the middle of life's chaos. So if this landed with you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what's coming next will sharpen your mind and steady your spirit. And here's my question for you. Which of these 5 phrases are you going to try first? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to see which one resonates with you most. Remember, calm is strength, silence is power, and respect is commanded by the way you carry yourself. Stay steady, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next one.